I'm David Volk, a voice of the resistance, albeit a strange and silly one. Today's post, my greatest turkey day ever, and it wasn't even Thanksgiving. Whenever Thanksgiving rolls around, folk music fans observe part of the day by listening to Alice's Restaurant. TV fans turn to a replay of a classic episode of WKRP in Cincinnati, and me, I remember the last time I hosted the Inanimate Object Bungee Jump and Donner Party Memorial Taste Like Chicken Barbecue over Ravenna Park in Seattle. Say what? I guess a little explanation is probably in order here. When I was in my 20s, I joined a group of goofballs called the Seattle Cacophony Society, which specialized in springing incidents of street theater on unsuspecting citizens. While we were never as organized as the flash mobs of the 1990s and the 2000s, we pulled off a number of events that often prompted innocent bystanders to mutter things like, "Those people, they're just not right in the head." Over the years, my favorite events included badminton golf through downtown Seattle, which works just like you think it would, meaning not well. The cult looks for a house, in which we pretended to be members of a religious cult attending an open house on a Sunday afternoon. Surprisingly, realtors took us seriously enough that they didn't seem to mind answering our questions about how many people could be attached to a load-bearing wall without it falling in the middle of a religious rite. And last but not least, the Bob Dylan Holiday Choir, where we went to a busy downtown shopping center during the Christmas season and sang Christmas carols the same mumbly, nasally way Bob Dylan would. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Some people got the joke, others did not. My favorite event, however, was the Inanimate Object Bungee Jump and Donner Party Memorial Taste Like Chicken Barbecue, where the group had a cookout and bungeed all kinds of random items off the side of a pedestrian bridge over a park in North Seattle near the University of Washington. Never once to tempt fate, we always made sure the trails were clear when the bungee cord was armed with a payload and always yelled, "Fire in the hole!" as a warning before throwing an item overboard. I didn't dream up the event, but I sort of adopted it after the first year and helped run the gathering. During my tenure, I watched as all kinds of objects took the plunge. Ken and Barbie dolls, shoes, old school rotary phones, bowling trophies, and especially enjoyed watching them almost hit the ground before the cord snapped them back up. With each passing year, the final item became increasingly spectacular. The first year it was an overhead dining room lighting fixture. The next, it was a standard upright vacuum cleaner. The year after that, the final item was so spectacular, I knew we'd never be able to top it. As it turns out, a friend who had never been to a cacophony event, much less the Inanimate Object Bungee Jump, wasn't sure what to bring. She looked around her house and couldn't find anything she wanted to attach to a bungee cord. So she went to the stores and was still baffled until she went grocery shopping and found it, a 10-pound frozen turkey. As soon as she showed up with it, we all bowed to her brilliance. The only problem with a frozen turkey is that it's hard to attach to a bungee cord. Since it's solid and we didn't have time to thaw it, we couldn't stick it into the turkey itself. At the same time, it was so slippery and smooth that we couldn't wind the cord around it and hope it would hold. In fact, the only option was to attach the bungee cord to the mesh bag that the turkey came in, launch it, and hope against hope that the laws of physics or whatever rules that govern a turkey in motion would suddenly be suspended and that the bag would hold and we'd be able to reel it in when we were done. We realized it wasn't a particularly good science or good option that we were relying on, but it was the only one we had. I mean, it could happen, right? And donkeys could fly out my ass, but that's another story for another time. Right after we yelled, "Fire in the hole!" and threw the bird over the bridge, we learned that there was another lesson in physics or whatever science applied in that situation. Apparently, there's a velocity at which the strands of a fully loaded mesh bag will stop going, but its payload will continue moving forward. That's when the bag broke open and the bird flew onward, landing in the mud below with a loud, satisfying, squelching sound. That wasn't the end of it, though. Oh no, that's when all hell broke loose and we learned another important lesson. You know that sound you hear in a Roadrunner cartoon when Wile E. Coyote falls off a cliff? That long, high-pitched sound that either ends when he crashes into the ground below or when the rubber band he's attached to himself drags him back into the air and over the cliff again. Apparently, that's a real thing, and it's the sound you hear when something has been freed of its burden and is ricocheting back. If this had been a movie, this would have been the slow-motion moment when you see the looks of glee on our faces suddenly change to masks of pure terror as we all realized the sound meant that the bungee cord was snapping back at us at a high rate of speed, and we were all going to die. Don't ask me how, but it flew over our heads and missed us completely before harmlessly falling back over the bridge. In its wake, there was a moment of silence that was so short that you might have missed it if you weren't paying attention, but so long that it gave each of us a chance to realize we had survived what would have surely been the dumbest death possible. And then we were all doubled over in laughter so hard that it made it difficult for us to breathe for at least 5 minutes. Yes, when Thanksgiving rolls around every year, some people will sing, "You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant." And others will laugh while saying, "As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly." But I will always look back and remember my greatest turkey day ever. And I'll recount the story every year at Thanksgiving until my children and my grandchildren think I'm making it up and I've gone crazy. I'm David Volk, a voice of the resistance, albeit a strange and funny one.